Let's talk about slicing lists in Python. Let's say we have a fruits variable that points to a list. We can get an item from this list by indexing it. If we put a colon and another number inside these square brackets, we'll slice this list instead of indexing it. Slicing a list gives us back a new list. We're getting a list of the first 3 items within our original list. Note that our original list is unchanged. Slicing takes a portion of the elements from our original list and makes a new list out of them. What do you think we might get if we were to slice our list from 1 to 3 instead of from 0 to 3? Here are some possible guesses. We might get 2 items starting from the second item, or we might get 3 items starting from the second item, or we could get the same 3 items that we got before. What's your guess? When we slice from 1 to 3, we only get 2 items this time. With Python's slicing syntax, the first item is the start index, and the second item is the stop index. The start index is inclusive, but the stop index is exclusive, meaning Python stops just before the stop index. So we're getting the items at index 1 and index 2 because we stopped just before index 3. The start and stop values are actually optional when slicing. If we don't supply a start index, we'll start at the beginning of the list, that is index 0. So this gave us back 3 items. If we don't supply a stop index, we'll stop at the end of the list. So this slice gave us everything from the second item onward. You may be wondering, why is the start index included, but the stop index is excluded? This exclusivity of the stop index actually has a nice side effect. If we were to slice this list from the beginning of the list up to index 3, but not including it, this slice wouldn't overlap with this slice here, where we slice from index 3 onward. So if we concatenate these two back together, we get something that is equivalent to the original list. Here's an example of making a new list that moves the first item to the end. We're slicing from the second item, that's index 1 onward, and then we're slicing up to, but not including, the second item. So effectively, we've made a list that moves that first item, watermelon, to the end of the list. Note that negative indexes work the same way with slicing as with indexing. Index -3 would give us the third to last item in this list. When we're slicing from -3 onward would give us the last 3 items in the list. Or slicing up to index -3 but not including it would give us everything except for the last 3 items in the list. Indexing and slicing are a little bit different in the way they treat indexes though. If you index past the end of a list, you'll see a traceback. Indexing out of bounds will raise an exception, but slicing past the end of a list doesn't raise an exception. An out-of-bounds slice just stops at the end of the list. The same applies to the beginning of the list. This might look like a bug, but it can actually be a helpful feature. For example, if we wanted to get the first 3 items from a list, we could slice it like this. But if there are fewer than 3 items in the list we're working with, we'll still get items. We just get all the items that are in the list. So slices in Python have a start index and a stop index, and the start index defaults to 0, the stop index defaults to the end of the list. But they also have an optional step value. The step value defaults to 1. If we change the step value to 2, we'll skip every other item. If we change it to 3, it'll show us every third item instead. The most common step value to see in a slice in Python is -1. A step value of -1 reverses the list. Whenever a negative step value is given, the default meaning of start and stop change. The start value now defaults to the last item in the list, and the stop value defaults to just before the beginning of the list. Reversing a list is the most common use for the step value in slicing, though typically I prefer to use Python's built-in reversed function for reversing a list instead. It's important to note that slicing doesn't just work on lists. If you can index an object, you can probably slice it. For example, this would give us the last 3 characters in this string. You can slice pretty much any sequence in Python. A sequence is something that you can index from index 0 up until just before the length of the sequence. Lists, tuples, and strings are all examples of sequences in Python. The most common uses of slicing in Python are getting the first few items in a sequence, getting the last few items in a sequence, or getting all the items except for the first item, or all the items except for the last item. These are not the only uses of slicing, but they are the most common. You can use slicing in Python to get portions of a list or any other sequence. Slicing is particularly great for getting the first few items, the last few items, everything but the first item, everything but the last item, or even reversing all the items in a sequence.